If you can find a seat, we'll get started. Good evening, and welcome to our candidate forum for the City of Richardson mayoral and city council election. I am Ellen Steger, president of the League of Women Voters of Richardson. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which never supports or opposes candidates. If you're interested in joining the League of Women Voters of Richardson, please pick up one of our membership brochures. They're on the back table and also in the foyer as you came in, or fill out a membership form on our website. Membership is open to women and men of all ages.
Sign me up.
Yeah, you got it. I hope you all got a program as you came in. We're trying something a little bit different tonight. The program is county specific. That means if you live in Dallas County, you need to have gotten the program for Dallas County. If you live in Collin County and are in the Plano ISD, then you need to have a program that is for Collin County. And you can tell at the bottom of the first page or on the back, Collin County is highlighted in black or Dallas County is highlighted. This information tells you what's on your ballot, where you're supposed to vote, and when you vote. Turns out if you are in Richardson, Collin County, there are two places you have to vote because Dallas County controls the city election for Richardson, but Collin County Elections Department controls the elections for Plano ISD and the Collin County Community District Board of Trustees. So take that information, and it's very important. It's also on our website. Tonight's forum is being streamed live on the city's website, www.cor.net. I think this is the first time it's been done, so this is history in the making, and welcome to everybody out there at home. It's also going to be broadcast live on the city's cable TV, which is Time Warner Channel 16 and ATT Uverse Channel 99. Taped replays of the forum will also be available on the city's cable channel from April 28th through May 7th. See tonight's program for times it will be aired on the TV. A replay of the forum will also be on the League's website at www.LWV-Richardson.org and the city's website, and all this is in your program. Many thanks to our candidates, both for attending our forum this evening and for their public service. We wish all of you the best in this election season. Only opposed candidates were invited to participate in the question and answer portion of tonight's forum. All candidates were invited to give a 2-minute closing statement. The League did not receive a response from Mayor Laura Maska. Claudia Tatum, who is running against Mabel Simpson for place 4, declined to participate in tonight's forum. It is long-standing League policy that at least 2 candidates for any contested race must be present in order for candidates in that race to participate in answering questions. Questions will not be asked of an opposed candidate unless at least one of his or her opponents is also participating in this forum. The League contacted Ms. Tatum on several occasions, urging her to reconsider her position. Despite our efforts, she is not participating this evening. Therefore, only candidates for place 1, incumbent Bob Townsend and his opponent Rick Wilder, will participate in the question and answer portion of this forum. All candidates, except for Ms. Tatum and Mayor Maska, will give closing remarks at the end of the question and answer section. The moderator for tonight's forum is Lynette Greenhaw. She is a longtime area advocate for public education. She is serving her 17th year as an elected member of the Richardson ISD Board of Trustees. Lynette is the Managing Director of Education for the Dallas Regional Chamber. She coordinates the Chamber's public education policy efforts, supports various education initiatives, and serves as the Chamber's liaison with Dallas ISD. Lynette is a graduate of Leadership TASB, which is the Texas Association of School Boards, and she has earned the designation of Master Trustee. She has completed, and this is really great, she has completed more than 792 hours of related board training and is actively involved in state and national public education advocacy organizations. She is also a graduate of Leadership-Richardson, serves as an elder at Preston Hollow Presbyterian Church, and has volunteered extensively in Richardson ISD and her community. She has been awarded the Texas PTA Life Membership and the National PTA Life Membership Achievement Award. She holds a degree in journalism from Oklahoma State University, where she was named the Outstanding Graduate of the School of Communications and served as editor of the campus daily newspaper. Prior to joining the Chamber, she worked professionally in the areas of media relations, crisis communications, and education advocacy. She and Bill, who's in the audience tonight, have been married for 35 years, have lived in Richardson for 33 years, and have 3 adult daughters and 1 granddaughter. Please welcome Moderator Lynette Greenhaw.
Thank you, Ellen, very much. I appreciate that warm introduction. Before we begin, I've been given the task of reviewing the format for tonight's forum so that you all will know and our candidates will be reminded. First, and I just heard one, we'll ask you to silence your pagers and your cell phones. Flash photography is not allowed during the forum, as it can be a distraction to the candidates, so we'll ask you to honor that. No part of the forum or video of this forum may be used in any kind of political advertisement. And in lieu of an opening statement, all candidates have had an opportunity to submit a short biography. Those biographies were printed on the white paper that was available to you tonight when you came in. The 2 Place 1 candidates participating in tonight's question and answer section are seated on the stage. If I can turn the page here, are seated on the stage, and in the order that their names will appear on the ballot. They will rotate answering questions back and forth. Participating unopposed candidates and Place 4 candidate Mabel Simpson will join the Place 1 candidates in giving a closing statement. Those not seated on the stage are seated here in the front row and will be introduced as they are called upon for the closing statement. All questions must be on the cards provided. Put only 1 question on a card, and we ask you to please write carefully and legibly so our sorters can really read your question. Address your question, please, to both candidates. That's one of the rules. And a question may be asked to only one of the candidates will not be asked. Make your question clear and concise. The tellers have the cards, and they will bring one to you. If you need one, just raise your hand. And questions submitted prior to the forum by email have already been transcribed, and some of them have been placed on cards. All questions will be given the same consideration, whether they were submitted by email or whether they are submitted in person tonight. When you've written a question on the card, please raise your hand, kind of wave it for the teller, and the teller will come get it and deliver it up here to the screeners table. The question screeners are seated at the table to my left. They are volunteers from the League of Women Voters of Richardson. The screeners are grouping questions by topic, and they hope to avoid repetition. So be creative and thoughtful when you ask your questions. They will screen the questions according to the League of Women Voters and Texas Guide to Candidates Forum, which states, questions should be screened for personal attacks or other inappropriate language. Several questions can be combined. They should be grouped by questions, so questions covering a range of topics may be covered. The timekeepers for the evening are from the League of Women Voters of Richardson, and they are seated here in the front row. The timekeeper will signal candidates with signs marked at 30 seconds, at 10 seconds, and then stop, indicating how much time remains to the answer for the question. So candidates, we hope that you will keep them in your view and follow those cues. Now, let's give a warm welcome to introduce our City Council candidates for Place 1 in ballot order. Place 1, ballot position 1, Bob Townsend. And Place 1, ballot position 2, Rick Wilder. Candidates, I'll remind you that you have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. The first question will go to Mr. Townsend, and that question is, why are you running for Richardson City Council?
Yes, I'm running for Richardson City Council. I've been on the council now for 14 years, and there's an awful lot that's been accomplished during this time. There's an awful lot in progress right now in the city of Richardson, and I'm anxious to be sure that those projects that are in progress right now continue. I also love this city. I've been in this city for many, many years, and I just love Richardson, and everything I do, every decision I make, I try to make it for the best to improve Richardson in some way. So I'm running to continue my work in the city council and to see that these projects are finished.
Thank you. Mr. Wilder?
I have served the city in various volunteer positions for many years. I listen to the people, and I have been employed all the time that I've served, and now I am retired, so now I have an opportunity to bring what I have learned and experienced to the city council and devote the amount of time I need to consider all the issues that will be presented. As Bob said, the city is in a very good position. That doesn't mean to say it's in the best position. There's always room for improvement, but we need a little different view sometimes. We need to be able to bring to the council what it is you, the residents, feel that the direction we should go into. I've heard a lot of different directions, a lot of different ways we can go, so everything has to be considered. But I will do also the best I can to bring this city to the best place that my children have come to really enjoy and grow up in, and so that's why I'm running.
Thank you. Our second question goes to Mr. Wilder first. What role should city council members take in trying to influence state legislation?
Good question, because state legislation should come from you. We or I should say the city council members should keep in touch with what legislation is being offered in Austin as it affects the city and what we do. It affects the residents. So if they see something that would be bad for you, the residents, and bad for the city, they as a voice should make it known to their representatives and the state capital that this is not the type of legislation we need to see coming down.
Thank you. Mr. Townsend?
Yes, well, the city council has long been advocates for the citizens in visiting with the state legislatures. We have really good relationships with all the state legislatures. We visit them in Austin. We let them know our opinions and our citizens' opinions. There are several laws under consideration now down in Austin that will have a diverse effect on Richardson and all the other cities. So we are working very hard to be sure that we maintain local control. There are some laws that are being considered that would take away some of our local control, which we are strongly against. So we are working very hard with them constantly, especially during the legislative sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. The next question, we will start with you also. Do you support zoning changes that will increase the population density of the city over the next 20 years? How would that change the character of the city?
Primarily, I support zoning changes along near the DART stations and along the major thoroughfares. Specifically, I think we're probably talking about apartments here. That is the only place that I would consider apartments in the city of Richardson. I would not consider them directly in the neighborhoods. Housing options are really necessary during the next few years. This area is in a period of tremendous growth, and these people are going to have some place to live. The State Farm's bringing in 8,000 or 10,000 people, just depending on who you talk to. Raytheon is bringing in about 1,500 to 1,800. So these people are going to have to live, these people that work in Richardson. In addition, the whole area is increasing significantly, and the biggest area of growth is in this northeast quadrant of the Metroplex. Which is where we live. So these people are going to have a place to live. There has to be options for all of them. And the new generations, they like upscale apartments to live in, unlike some of us older people that prefer single family homes. But they like the multifamily living and with all the amenities that it has. Thank you.
Mr. Wilder?
Any zoning changes that affect the population density have to have other components with it. Just zoning, changing zoning to allow a larger increase in population does nothing to support the city. In fact, it takes away from our city services. Any increase in population is going to be requiring more city services for police, fire, sewer, water, transportation. Everything that you residents currently have to pay for will be used by any increase in population. If there is not a retail or revenue portion along with that zoning, then it does not help the city in any way. Granted, we have a great workforce and we need to be able to continue to have that resource for all the employment that we have in the city and to attract other employers. But the people that are here and that move in here has to have some place to spend their money, something to keep them here, and something that is not a draw on the city services.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder. This next question, we will start with you first. Why does Richardson not have any facilities for abused women? Currently, these women have to go to Plano or Garland for help.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if I can answer it, but I do know that the majority of services is provided by volunteers and by organizations that are set up to do that. As far as I know, the city has no service qualified people that can provide those services. We do have a number of community homes or group homes to provide some of that, but we don't have any organizations that I know of that is set up to actually provide that care.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend?
Yes, the city of Richardson itself does not have a facility for abused women or children. Primarily, these are charitable organizations that are formed by a group of citizens. They're usually not formed by the city themselves. There is a great one in Plano, right real near Richardson. We do have the group homes that for the women to go to stay when they're in danger. We do have one organization that provides some help with in these situations, but we do not have. We have not ever considered that question in providing those facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. We will start with you for this next question. What specific policies do you advocate to preserve, restore, and strengthen Richardson neighborhoods, especially our aging neighborhoods? Is there sufficient revenue in the current budget to support these policies?
Well, we've had a great program in the past, and it will continue in the future, is to provide support for revitalization in the neighborhoods. We strongly encourage redevelopment of the older neighborhoods. While we have not, there are incentives for people that decide to upgrade their homes in their neighborhoods. If you spend over $20,000 upgrading your home, you can get a tax rebate of how much your taxes increase times 10. So if your taxes increase, say $200 because of your upgrade, then we will write you a check for 10 times that amount, or $2,000. That check is written to you immediately after the evaluation. So we do have that program, which is a great program. We also we recognize all these people that make developments. We have our awards that we present every year to the people that make their improvements to their homes, and they're recognized in the ceremony. They're given a plaque, and we recognize them. So we provide the financial support. We also provide the recognition, and we strongly encourage the redevelopment of our old neighborhoods.
Mr. Wilder, same question.
I've lived in my neighborhood since 1991, and I have seen it revitalize itself, and that's where the revitalization has to start. in the neighborhoods, in the communities. We need to support the HOAs and the neighborhood associations and help them with their neighborhood revitalization. It's not an easy task, and it's very expensive, especially for fixed income citizens like we have. In order to revitalize where they live, they have to have some way of doing it. And while the $20,000 revitalization recap that the city gives is nice, you got to be able to have the $20,000 to spend in the first place. And most of us really don't have that. What we need to push for is the PACE legislation that the state has already put in place and passed. The only thing the PACE legislation is waiting for is a law, and it's currently in the state capitol, to allow the municipalities to sell bonds or borrow money to allow people to finance the revitalization of their homes themselves and not have to put the money up front. So that's something the city needs to push for.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder. This question starts with you. Mayor Laura Matska has announced that she has made the decision that she will not serve as mayor for the 2015-2017 term and intends to submit a letter of declination for the office of mayor at the city council meeting at which the election canvass will be conducted. Do you think the city attorney properly interpreted the city charter in coming up with the process for replacing the mayor?
I've read the city charter and how the actual process goes, and they are following the letter of the law. The city attorney and the council does not have a choice because of the way it is being worked. If the mayor had resigned earlier, it would have still resulted in a very similar situation in which the city council would then have promoted Bob as mayor pro tem into the mayor slot, and then they would have had to also vote to pick another person to replace Bob on the council from that place. So regardless of how it falls out, they are doing it according to the city charter.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this change on the way to pick a new mayor was put into the city charter at the same time 3 years ago when the citizens voted to elect the mayor directly rather than by the city council. So this particular change was put in conjunction with that. So the people that wanted direct election of mayors also wanted it to be done this way. And yes, the city attorney is interpreting that correctly. As Mr. Wilder explained, the procedure that we will go through to select the new mayor in this time. We cannot have a direct election of the mayor. The only time you can have a new election or a special election to elect the mayor or the city council, person, is if you have 3 or more vacancies on the council at the very same time. If you have 2 or less vacancies, it has to be by appointment. Thank you.
Mr. Townsend, we'll return to you for this next question. Do you think the city of Richardson is doing enough to prepare for potential emergencies and disasters, whether natural or man-made?
Yes, we definitely are. We have a great team on our emergency preparedness team. They have new offices, and they have contacts, they have all the facilities to prepare for, to be ready when there is an emergency. Hopefully we never have one, but we are as prepared, I think, as we could possibly be right now.
Thank you. Mr. Wilder?
Our emergency preparedness team, I've met them all. Mr. Gardner is heading that up, and she is extremely knowledgeable. We've had a little bit of experience when the hurricanes came in and hit our coastline, and Richardson jumped up and provided shelter and food and protection and placement for victims of those natural disasters. And the city has things in place ready to help in the event we have a natural disaster. The community came out fantastically, and whatever the city lacks in support, will be made up by our community. We have some of the best volunteers and some of the most able people in the nation.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder. We'll start with you for this question. How will you select the person to fill the vacancy that will be on the council? Will there still be 7 people on the city council? Can we repeat it?
I understand the question. You're referring, I hope the person is referring to if there's a vacancy in the future, not as it is now.
You can choose to answer that however you interpret it.
Okay. The city charter sets out the requirements for filling a vacancy on the city council in case we have someone who cannot perform their duties. And it's not unusual to have someone to be selected if that happens. Normally, since we only have a 2-year term, there's usually not a lot of time in between the elections for someone to have to worry about someone being selected. Normally, the council is restricted to selecting someone from that place if it is a place location, but if it's a person at large, they can select someone from the entire city. And in that case, I would hope that the city council would have the foresight to select someone that would be able to work with them and has the issues in hand.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Would you like that question again? Are you ready?
Yeah, would you read again?
How will you select the person to fill the vacancy that will be on the council? Will there still be 7 people on the city council?
The person that's selected with a vacancy, let me give you an example. For example, say it happened before say Ms. Maska decided to resign before the election. In this example, I, as Mayor Pro Tem, would move up to mayor. The city council would then select another Mayor Pro Tem. My place is place number 1. So we would appoint someone that presently lives in place number 1, just as an example. So that person would be selected, and I'm sure there would be a lot of consideration given to a lot of different people in this selection, but that is the process. One thing to note, though, there's a charter review commission on right now, and one of their recommendations is going to be that if this situation should happen again, and it's over a year away from the next election, then there will be a special election to fill a vacancy for mayor or a vacancy for any of the city council persons.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. We'll start with you on this question. California cities are going bankrupt. San Jose is currently spending 14% of their yearly income. What will Richardson's debt obligations be 10 years from now, and what do you plan to do to curb guaranteed pension payments in the future? Okay,
specifically, I think you're probably thinking about pension payments and pension plans. You know, several of the corporate world are reducing or cutting out their pension plans. Every city in the Metroplex has a pension plan very similar to ours. So our competition for people, for employees, and especially for the public safety employees, is critical that we maintain a plan. You know, our pension plan right now is 80% funded, which means that, and it's well funded because a lot of those people will not be retiring for quite some time, and so it will continue to be funded in that. You know, we spend 14% of our payroll into the pension plan every year. So I think if we tried to do away with our pension plan or reduce it, we would have a very difficult time in maintaining our public safety people, especially because if they can go to another place and get their pension plan, they will do that. So it's critical that we maintain a pension plan.
Thank you. Mr. Wilder?
Nobody likes to lose anything. And I know how hard it is, having worked for several large companies and what they have to offer in order to get qualified people in. The current pension plans that we have are losers for the city. Yes, the city can go bankrupt over time because it's an extremely costly venture. However, there are other ways to entice qualified technical people, qualified educated people to come to work for us without having a golden parachute, as a lot of people like to call it. I myself have never encountered that, and I was smart enough to save for my retirement with what the companies offered. They can offer something that won't bankrupt the companies and still make it possible for a person to retire and live comfortably. So yes, I'm not in favor. I'm in favor of looking for an alternative way than the compensation that we currently have.
Mr. Townsend?
I've already answered.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry, I missed that. I apologize.
I'll go again, though. If you...
All right, so then we will return back to Mr. Wilder to start with this question. Some people are saying that the city charter review process currently underway is not meaningful and is being managed by the city attorney. Do you think that the review process is meaningful or not?
I think we need more input in the review process. I know we've had some public meetings, but unfortunately, the apathy in the city tends to make those meetings not as effective as they can be. It's really up to us, you, the residents, the voters, to put pressure on to make sure that the review process gets completed the way you would like it. If you don't like the way things are happening, you have to stand up and say something about it, because you're the only ones that can affect that change. We have selected people on that commission. If they don't hear from you, then they have to do the best that they can do without any input, and it's up to you to give them that input.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Townsend.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you know, I think this Charter Review Commission is doing a great job, and from what I hear that's going on, they do get some direction from the city attorney, because he has to be sure that any changes they make are allowed under state law. But that's the primary direction that he gives them. I think they're doing a great job. They have had 2 public meetings already. I think a total of 6 people have shown up to address their concerns in these meetings. So you've got to get involved if you want to make any changes. After the Charter Review Commission issues their report, it will come to the city council. The council will decide what goes forward out of that. You can also make your feelings known on what the changes are being made to the city, to the charter, by going to your city councilman. The changes can be made at that point too, and then finally, the people will vote on all the charter changes. They will vote They can vote on the individual items that are going on in there. So you will have a chance to vote on it at the very end. But in the meantime, you need to go to some of these meetings of the City Charter Commission and find out what's going on. And at the public hearings, voice your opinions. That's the only way you can get anything done. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Townsend, we'll return to you for this question. Do you anticipate the City of Richardson implementing a fee for plastic bag use, as some of the surrounding cities have done or are considering? Why or why not?
No, I do not anticipate a plastic bag fee. I've heard from too many of our people, our citizens, who are so opposed to it. I mean, they talk about when they go into Dallas and have to pay that 5 cents a bag fee. They'll just carry their goods in their hands and try to get to the car with them. So, no, I do not anticipate any change in charging for the plastic bags.
Thank you. Mr. Wilder?
Okay, my answer's not going to make me popular. I believe we should, as a city, put out an ordinance banning the use of plastic bags, and I'll tell you why. Our vendors, our shop owners, actually would like that, because they spend a lot of money every year for those plastic bags. The city also spends a lot of money cleaning up those plastic bags, And I personally have a trunk full of reusable bags. And it is not any more effort to take those bags out of my trunk if I'm going in shopping and using them. They can hold more. I don't ever have to worry about the eggs breaking when the plastic bag comes open. But at the same time, there are organizations like the city who gives out free reusable cloth bags, and it's probably the most obvious thing to do because it cuts down on our costs. The stores should be able to cut some prices down because they don't have to pay for the plastic bags. So I am in favor of not necessarily charging for the bags, just getting rid of them.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder. Mr. Townsend?
I've already answered that one.
My system is failing me right now, so let's go to a new one. All right, so we're going to go back to Mr. Wilder. What will you consider in choosing Mayor Pro Tem, who will then become the mayor? What qualities should the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem possess that set them apart for other council members?
Well, the Mayor Pro Tem, first of all, is the figurehead of the city. This is who everybody sees anytime an event happens and the mayor is representing the city. And it also means that that person has to have the available time to devote to the needs of the city. The selection process should be one that takes into consideration the person's personality, his appearance out to the public, and basically that his moral and ethical standards are beyond question, because that's what everyone outside of the city and in the city sees. So that consideration has to have a lot of thought behind it.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes, one of the primary things that the Mayor Pro Tem who would become the mayor has to have is the ability to work with a team. It is so critical that this entire city council work as a team. He must have the background, he must have the experience to work with the entire city council. He also must be able to conduct meetings in a fair and equitable way. The mayor is basically the figurehead of the city. While on the council they just have one vote, the people look to them. You know, as mayor, you do an awful lot of ribbon cuttings, you do an awful lot of speeches to various organizations, so you're going to have the time and be able to talk to these people, as well as be available at all times to talk to the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Townsend, this next question will start with you. Are all group homes in Richardson licensed by the state? Are there fire and other safety requirements?
I'm sorry, would you repeat it?
Are all group homes in Richardson licensed by the state? Are there fire and other safety requirements?
Group home, well, there are two types of group homes. A group home, they're called group homes and community homes. Community homes are licensed by the state. Group homes are not. They are provided for by the federal government. We really don't have a choice on whether we allow a group home to come into Richardson, because if the person is disabled, the Fair Housing Act requires that we provide an equal opportunity for them to live in a community. There's a lot of more details that I could go into that, but both the group homes and the community homes must abide by all the rules and regulations, safety, health, and so forth, the rules of the city of Richardson.
Mr. Wilder?
Well, Bob pretty much covered that. Any group home or other establishment has to abide by the city codes as well as whatever state requirements are put on them. For the safety of those they serve, they have to make sure that they keep up the minimum standards required by the health department, the fire department, and of course the police department. So therefore, they are under a lot of regulations and required to give the best care and safety that they can. So the city's ordinances as well as the state's requirements should make sure that anyone who has to occupy one of those homes can get the best of the care they need.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder. We'll start with you on this next question. What current state legislative issues are of concern to the Richardson City Council and why?
Well, I can't point out a specific legislation that Austin is considering that could be detrimental to the city. They have a lot of bills in committee working their way through to go to the floor, and you never know which ones are going to make it out and which ones aren't. They have different bills on gun control. They have different bills on law. Basically, we have to wait and see what actually gets out of committee and gets to the floor before we can really do an evaluation as to whether or not they are a concern for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend.
Well, one area that we're really concerned about is revenue caps. The legislature is trying to put caps on the amount of revenue that the city can get. Regardless of how much new development there goes in or whatever, they put a cap on that, on the revenues. We are very much against this. We think that local control is the way for people to decide how much their tax rate is going to be and so on. So we are strongly for local control, and we are very much against the proposals for revenue caps. As also, we're all very much against appraisal caps. Again, I think here they're taking away local control, which is so important to Richardson. Another thing that we're very concerned about is the red light camera bills. There are some that would really like to do away with the city's ability to have red light cameras. Red light cameras in Richardson have been a big aid in reducing the number of accidents at those intersections where there are red light cameras. I don't have the specifics, but we've seen the reduction in the number of accidents that has happened because of red light cameras being there. So, stop.
Mr. Wilder?
I answered that one.
I'm really messing up the system, aren't I? All right, somehow I missed that. Okay. Let's go to the next. This is the next to last question I want you to know. And we will start with Mr. Townsend. The Panhandle, which is a newer area of Richardson, seems to have a separate culture from traditional Richardson. What policies and/or activities should be promoted to create a more unified community?
Well, I've heard this from the east side and the west side for a long time, and now that I'm hearing it, now I'm hearing it from the Panhandle, from the rest of Richardson. I think we are making progress on really bringing the Panhandle into Richardson. I think there are several things in the Panhandle that are needed. Primarily, they need a rec center out there. And I think that the new city line development that's being developed right now will do an awful lot to bring the Panhandle into Richardson rather than going to Murphy or Plano to do their shopping. So, I mean, with the new Whole Foods going in there on Renner Road and Renner and Plano, I think that will draw the people into the city proper. Unfortunately, the only library is a central library here in Richardson. That's a long ways from out there. But the big thing that they have out there that I think is Breckenridge Park, that takes the people of Richardson out to the Panhandle and get to know those people out there more. So I think that is a big asset that we already have, but it needs more development, primarily a rec center out there to further the relations.
And Mr. Wilder?
I realize I feel a little isolated out there. I know that my commission that I chaired, the Environmental Commission, has taken steps to help bring a little more closeness. All of us here, probably for the most part, can go up here to the city center and get our recycling bags, or they can go to any of the events that we support and get free recycling coupons and free recycling bags. We have now started a program to bring those recycling bags out to Station 6 at the new fire station, so that the residents out in the Panhandle don't have to come all the way in here to get them. We're trying to bring some of that to them. We do a lot of activities as a city. We need to consider doing some of those activities out in Breckenridge and other places closer to them, so that we get a melting of both the major part of the city and any outlying areas, so they do feel like a family or community. And so there's some things that we can do to bring us all closer together.
Thank you. Now, candidates, this is our last question, and Mr. Wilder, we'll start with you. Do you believe that Mayor Matska should resign? If so, when, why, or why not?
Yes. It's unfortunate the way the timing has come out. I understand her need for her personal life to get straightened out, and she's still our leader, and she will be until the election. If she chose to resign right now, it would not change the way we select the next mayor. It would only change the way we have this next election. So going forward, this is a decision that she herself will have to make based on what she thinks is best for the city and for herself.
And Mr. Townsend?
Yes, unfortunately, I think she's already decided to step aside. So I think with the situation in hand, and I've already told her this, I think she should resign now. That is her decision, though. And so I will honor her decision. I mean, we've got, what, 4 weeks now. So, yeah, she should resign. She's done a great job as mayor. She really has. And she's got an awful lot of development. It's unfortunate the recent circumstances have arisen, but she has done a great job as a mayor. But yes, I do think she should resign under the circumstances, and I think she should do it now, but that is her decision.
Thank you. So now that's the end of our questions. They answered effectively and efficiently 16 different questions, which, despite the fact that I tried to confuse them several times, you see how smart they are? They kept on task, so we're doing well.
Could have been 32.
That's right. So it's now time for our closing statements to be given in reverse ballot order. Each participating candidate will have 2 minutes for closing statements. We will begin with Place 6 candidate Steve Mitchell. Just be careful.
When you're tall, this is the dilemma you have here. Anyway, it is great to be here tonight. I want to thank Ellen Steger and the League of Women Voters for their work in bringing this forum forward. Can you give them a round of applause? You can use my time. And of course, Lynette Greenhaw for her moderation, my great friend. So you can give her a round of applause as well. You can use my time. You know, my family moved to Richardson 50 years ago, like many of you, maybe not 50 years ago, for the same reasons. We have quality neighborhoods, outstanding schools, and abundant jobs. You know, I think the same holds true today, but we must continue to reinvest in the city through repair and replacement of infrastructure, streets, alleys, and sidewalks, enhanced amenities, which you've seen, and maintaining and growing our job base. You know, during my tenure on the council, we've seen the voter-approved $111 million of general obligation bonds. We've seen new developments. You've seen State Farm, City Line, Raytheon. You've seen the redevelopment of the Collins Tech Park into data centers. You've seen the venerable Richardson Heights Village revitalized, and that's been exciting. You know, we've reversed the trend where the funding of the city was on the backs of our residents. And we've maintained and enhanced services while keeping city employment at 2001 levels and keeping the tax rate dedicated to maintenance and operations constant. My focus has been, during my tenure, on the big and the small, but it all leads back to enhancing the quality of life for those who live and work in Richardson. Even though I'm unopposed in this election, I would still ask for your vote in May for City Council. Steve Mitchell, Place 6. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Now it's Place 5 candidate Paul Volker.
Those were good. I'll use those. Hi, my name is Paul Volker. I know I get called Volker a lot, but for my German grandparents and parents, I'm going to stick with that pronunciation. I, like many, moved to this city years ago, 32. I was a college kid. Gene, thank you for hiring me, at Hewlett-Packard some 32, 33 years ago. I went to William Penn College, university now. Met my wife, Chris. We have one son, Ryan. I'm part of the heritage of Telecom Corridor. I've always been in the information and communications technology business. I've had 2 homes while I've lived here in Richardson, one in the Canyon Creek area, and yes, somebody's calling me. Yes, somebody like me lives in the Panhandle. I was a little confused on the cultural thing, so I'm going to have to absorb that some. My community involvement has been across many boards and committees and commissions. At the city level, I was on the Zoning Board of Adjustments. I'm probably known, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm pro-business, but I'm also for strong neighborhoods. When we sit down and do the city's business this next year and look at the bond election, I'm going to put my priorities on the maintenance and infrastructure of the city and the public health and safety of the city first. And when we're done with those, we'll take a look at others. As an elected official, you can always count on me to be consistent in my votes. I like to see us keep a cap and a check on taxes. I don't believe much in regulations or ordinances just for the sake of putting more in place. And I believe property owners have rights. And those are the principles that I vote on a weekly basis. And I would love to have you go back and look at my record and see how consistent I've been on those. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Place 4 candidate Mabel Simpson.
It's nice to see everyone here tonight, and I would like to thank the League of Women Voters. This is a huge undertaking, so the time that you've put this together is greatly appreciated. I'm disappointed that I didn't get to participate for yet another non-appearing opponent for my race. So I would urge you all to go to the Dallas Morning News website, where we have filed our responses, as well as the League of Women Voters, because I didn't have an opportunity to share with you. But I will tell you, I've been in Richardson for a very long time myself. Like Mr. Velker, I am pro-business. I've had a law firm in Richardson for a very long time. And my father used to be on city council, so I have some really good ideas, and they're right in my wheelhouse, and I'm here to make some things happen. I would really appreciate your vote. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and go look at my answers and responses. And I, too, don't think you need a rule and an ordinance for everything. There needs to be some more personal accountability. We need to quit making rules to correct things. Just go back to the old way where you take responsibility. So please get out and vote, and please vote Place 4 for Mabel.
Thank you. Now, Place 3 candidate Scott Dunn.
I'm going to kind of keep it brief. Thank you, the League, for putting this on. You, the residents, for coming out to get informed. I will stay right here after this forum if you have any questions to ask me. But it has been my honor to serve you for the last 4 years in this wonderful city. and look forward to serving you for the next 2 years. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Place 2 candidate Mark J. Solomon.
Joseph. I mean, Mark Joseph Solomon, what more can you ask for? Thank you for the opportunity to be your councilman for the last 6 years. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity for another 2 years. Like all my fellow councilmen have said tonight, and Mabel, we all came here for the very basic same reasons. I came here for a job and have stayed and run our insurance agency now here for 29 years. And the family has all grown up here now. The children all graduated from Berkner High School. We're very proud of what this city has given us an opportunity of, and we're looking forward to being able to give that same opportunity to our grandchildren. We now have 6 grandchildren, 3 of which live in Canyon Creek. So we are looking at every one of those opportunities to make this place as just as good a place as we had when we moved here. So we will continue to do that. Our infrastructure is critical. We've got to do that, as many of the councilmen have already said. That's going to be our main emphasis for this next year. We've got to do some improvements in that area continually. We've got to look at continuing to protect our neighborhoods as best as we can against the intrusions that all of us don't necessarily agree with, but we've got to do those things that are legal and right, and we'll continue to do as much regulation as we can on those issues. Like Mabel and others have said, though, we don't need to be passing laws just to pass laws. I can remember one that I asked the chief of police about when we were fixing to pass it, and he said, you know, Mark, I don't know if we can enforce that or not, but we don't need to have those if we can't enforce them. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to represent you. I look forward to these next 2 years, and God bless Richardson. Thank you.
And now we'll move back to our contested candidates. Place 1 candidate Rick Wilder.
First of all, thank you for showing the community interest to come out here and spend the time and listen to us. I know it's not easy, and I know you haven't had all of your questions answered, but we hope to be able to do that in the future. I know we haven't earned your trust, but I hope if you elect me, I do earn that trust. And I'm putting a challenge onto you all. To get involved, to become the community that I know we can be. We have a lot of great institutions in this city. We have the police academy, the fire academy, the network of community ministries. There is a ton of different organizations that you can volunteer and bring your special abilities and your enthusiasm to and really build this community up. By doing so, you become much, much more aware of what's going on in your community, and you have a much better chance of changing and directing the way this community goes. So I want to thank you all for coming out. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you, and thanks the League of Women Voters, who puts on probably the most professional forum I've ever attended.
Thank you. Place 1 candidate Bob Townsend.
Well, I too would like to thank the League for doing a great job tonight in this forum. You know, I moved to Richardson in the late 50s with my family. I went to work for TI. I stayed with TI for almost 38 years in various technical and managerial positions. My kids all went through the Richardson school system from grade school on up. And most of my grandchildren went through the same thing. We now have 7 grandchildren, and we now have 5 great-grandchildren, which we adore. And you know, I'm really proud of the things that have been accomplished in Richardson during my terms on the council, working with the other council members. We have seen an awful lot of progress made in the city of Richardson. You know, I was involved earlier on. I've been involved in the PTA. I've worked with RISD. I've I've also been involved with, I'm a member, an active member of the First United Methodist Church of Richardson. I have my education, my undergraduate work was done at Southeastern Oklahoma State University and the University of Oklahoma. I got my MBA from SMU, and so I have the education, the technical training, the managerial skills to do a great job. To me, the most critical issue in Richardson right now is our infrastructure. The past few councils have taken dramatic steps to improve our infrastructure by applying, well, right now it's 2 cents of the property tax that goes directly to the infrastructure, primarily the streets and alleys. We hope to maintain this 2 cents and maybe increase it in the future. We've got to take care of our infrastructure before we do anything. Okay, the early voting starts on April the 27th and it runs through May the 5th. Actual voting date is May the 9th. Please get out and vote. It is so critical that we get the people out to vote. Thank you very much.
So now will you please give a big round of applause for these candidates and our non-contested candidates.
And Lynette, thank you so very much for coming out tonight and doing a fabulous job. Thank you very much. Audience, thank you for coming tonight and for your attention to the candidates. We'll see you at the polls.